McCluskey and his men had a difficult decision to make: head back to the Enterprise, or go searching for the Japanese fleet, and possibly run out of fuel. Luckily, McCluskey then spotted a single Japanese destroyer named the Arashi moving northward, as it had been left behind to fight off the American submarine Nautilus. McCluskey assumed that the destroyer was heading north to rejoin its fleet, and he was right. His air group flew northward, and soon found themselves above the entire Japanese carrier fleet. Although the previous attacks on the Japanese fleet had been unsuccessful, many of the Zero fighter planes were now running low on fuel and ammunition. As McCluskey's bombers began to attack, another squadron of dive bombers arrived from the Yorktown. The largest carrier, the Kaga, would be hit first, with a dozen 500 and 1,000-pound bombs setting to blaze within minutes. The Akagi would be next, with a fatal 1,000-pound bomb penetrating the center of the flight deck, exploding the 18 fully loaded torpedo bombers on board. Simultaneously, bombers from the Yorktown attacked the Soryu, which was set alight within seconds. 3 of the 4 Japanese carriers had now been obliterated, with only the 4th carrier, the Hiryu, managing to escape. The Hiryu, in desperation for revenge, then launched an attack against the Yorktown, which would eventually be sunk by a Japanese submarine. In retaliation, all available aircraft from the Enterprise and Hornet were sent to sink the Hiryu, and they were successful. The Kido Butai was now gone. In just a single day, Japan's naval power had been completely obliterated. Yamamoto's plan had backfired, and the United States were now free to roam the Pacific. But the Battle of Midway redefines the importance of air superiority for the remainder of the war, and with 4 Japanese carriers out of the equation, the Japanese would never again launch a major offensive in the Pacific. Pearl Harbor and Midway were now secured for the United States. But just 1 month later, both sides would be engulfed in the Battle of Guadalcanal. Churchill saw Greece as an important anti-German position, and therefore thought it wise to send British troops there from North Africa. However, Churchill was unaware that at the same time he was sending troops to fight in Greece, Hitler was preparing to send German forces to Africa. Hitler saw Mussolini's failures in North Africa as endangering the Axis war effort, leaving Germany vulnerable to the south, and so to support Italian resistance. In February 1941, Hitler sent in the Afrika Korps, 65,000 men under the command of Major General Erwin Rommel. Rommel was a distinguished soldier in the Great War, and had commanded the 7th Panzer Division during the 1940 invasion of France. He proved himself an effective tank commander, and it would not be long until he was given the nickname the Desert Fox. Rommel arrived in Libya in February 1941, quickly using his forces to push back the British stationed at El Agheila, whose numbers had been reduced by the war in Greece. The British would go on to see defeat after defeat, being pushed out of Benghazi in April and retreating all the way back to Tobruk. Rommel continued to drive east, surrounding the 9th Australian Division at Tobruk on April 10th. However, he was unable to take the port,